My fiance had a threesome at his bachelorette, and you're not going to believe how I found out. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. For this, I would have sworn that my fiance was a saint. Volunteers his time at a hospice and 3 different animal shelters, and he's just always trying to help old people and kids and animals. Before him, I dated a disgusting amount of men, but he was like a breath of fresh air. This is one of the worst parts. He chased me for months. I wasn't convinced that he was the right kind of person for me, but I knew that he was different, and that's why I gave him a chance. It's always the ones that chase you. But after 6 months of dating, I knew that I wanted to marry him. After a year, he proposed in the most beautiful romantic way. Everything was too perfect. First, we agreed to have a combined bachelor and bachelorette, and his friends told me that they wanted to take him to Vegas, so I said sure. Now, this is how I found out. My stupid fiance had gifted me a tablet that he had used for a couple of weeks. I didn't realize until that night that that tablet still received text messages from him. That night, the tablet kept pinging. When I opened up the group text of him and his friends, I see the most horrendous things you could ever imagine. My fiance making out with a man and a woman. Babe, I'm so sorry to do this to you, but you're gonna have to go to part 2. My fiance had a threesome at his bachelor, and you're never gonna guess how I found out. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. When the iPad won't stop pinging, I open it and look through the messages, and that's when I see his group text with his friends. Rows and rows of disgusting, heinous pictures of my fiance making out with a man and a woman at the same time, if you can imagine it, in what clearly is the hotel room. The pictures did not stop. They were coming in live. I had a front row seat of my fiance's escapades. The pictures just kept getting worse and worse. From making out to taking off each other's clothes to doing other things. Who the heck was taking these pictures? And why were his friends in the same room? Best part is that there were other friends in those pictures who were married, who were also cheating in the pictures. So I started a group text with all the other wives and girlfriends, and I just forwarded every single picture. We all jumped on a group call, and this is when they all decided to tell me that my fiance is heavily bisexual, and that in fact they've always thought that he was gay. They were shocked when he found out that he was getting married to me. There was screaming, vomiting, crying, and now you're really never gonna guess what we did. You gotta go to part 3. My fiance had a threesome at his bachelor party. When I saw the pictures on the iPad, I sent it off to all the wives and girlfriends. This is when they tell me that they're surprised he's even getting married to a woman. One of the wives had a really good idea. We were only an hour away from Vegas, so I picked everybody up and we drove as fast as we could to Vegas. And one of the girlfriends knew exactly where they were staying. When we got to the hotel, she thought of the perfect excuse. She called her half-drunk boyfriend and told him that we had ordered them Uber Eats, that all they needed to do was go down and pick it up. So he comes downstairs, and that's when he sees all of us lined up. Some of us were still in our PJs. We forced him to take us up to the room. When I tell you what position I found my fiance in, just not gonna believe me. It's a memory I wish I could erase from my mind. Come to find out, they hired all of those men and women. None of them wore protection, and my fiance got it on with 2 people at once. Every single one of us threw our engagement and wedding rings at them. The ones that are married are getting divorced. Called his parents, told him what happened, and they volunteered to come pick up all his stuff. Just because it seems like he's a good guy doesn't actually mean he's a good guy. Bye. This is why women cannot be nice to men. Imagine getting fired because your coworker is in love with you. Because they know they can't have you, they get you fired. This actually happened to me. To this day, I will always regret the fact that I didn't do anything about it. I was working in New York City and I had my first office job ever. It was really good. I made really good money every single month. Love my little New York commute to my job. And the fact that I was working with my bestie literally next to me, it was perfect. The person that sat on the other side of me, let's call him John. John thought he was hilarious. Made jokes all the time because I wanted to keep the peace at this office and I wanted everybody to like me. I laughed at all his jokes. This is that curse that women have. You are nice to any man, you laugh at their jokes, and you talk to them. They will start liking you. When they realize that you don't like them back or that they can't have you, retaliate and they get all butthurt. One day I get an email saying that I don't need to come into work. And then I got a letter saying that I was fired. For what reason? I have no idea. They didn't say. What would you have done though? You gotta go to part 2. This is why women choose the bear. Imagine your coworker gets you fired because he knows he can't have you. That's what happened to me. After I received my termination letter, which didn't tell me why I got fired, they actually asked my best friend to meet me somewhere to tell me that I got fired. And no, with no explanation. For 2 months, I was deeply depressed. I finally had a job for the first time in my life that paid well. Was able to help my mom financially, and suddenly the rug was pulled out from under me. 3 months later, I'm on my honeymoon. And that's when my bestie reaches out and says, "Can you talk?" That's when she tells me that she found out through somebody else. John, the guy that I sat next to at work, told the boss that several times I asked him if I could go on him and that I had basically offered myself to him. Ew! Essentially, I didn't make him feel safe in the office. Without even investigating, they fired me. The worst part is I had reached out to him asking him if he knew why I got fired. And he played completely dumb. He was like, "I don't know, but I'll find out. If you need any financial help, please let me know. If you need anything, let me know." And guess what? I didn't do anything about it. Do you regret it now? And should I try to sue them or what? Story time about how my grandma got married when she was 14 years old. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it's sending me on Instagram. So just picture it. I'm sitting with my 94-year-old grandma in the kitchen, and suddenly she starts talking about my grandpa. My grandpa passed away almost 10 years ago. And to be fair, they did have a wonderful marriage. By all accounts, and by all of my family's accounts, they were totally in love until the moment he took his last breath. Here's how the story goes. The first time they met, she was 12 years old. He had just gotten back from the war. She was walking home from school with her backpack, and my 27-year-old grandpa pulls up in his car. He starts to tell her that she's going to be his future wife and that he's going to talk to her parents so that they can get married. He kept inviting her into his car, but she kept saying no. He followed her home from school every single day. As my grandma is telling the story, everyone is laughing except for me. Finally, one day he followed her to her house, knocked on the door, and requested to speak to my great-grandfather. They spoke for an hour, and that's when my great-grandpa promised my grandma to my grandpa, and he gave them permission to get married when she was 14. At first, he wanted them to get to know each other, so they started going on dates. Part 2 is up. Story time about how my grandma married my grandpa when she was 14. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it's sending me on Instagram. And if you want longer story times, go to my YouTube. This is when my great-grandfather promised my 12-year-old grandma to my 27-year-old grandfather. My great-grandpa thought that it would be best they wait 2 years so that they can get married when she's 14. In the meantime, he suggested that they start going out on dates. Yes, a 12-year-old girl and a 27-year-old man. By the way, as my grandma is telling this story, all of my cousins are laughing at this. I'm trembling in my seat. She explained to us that for those 2 years, my grandfather was on his best behavior, and that essentially they read books together, they walked together by the lake, and he would take her out to see movies. She said at the time it was a big deal. Going to the movies was like a big treat. I guess it made me feel better knowing that he didn't try to do anything to her at the time. Still, it's absolutely disgusting. Finally, the 2 years passed, and at this point, they're totally in love. They get married. Both their families attended this wedding. How did no one in their families think it was inappropriate? Watching a 14-year-old get married to a 29-year-old man? But it gets worse. Part 3 is up. Storytime about how my grandma married my grandpa when she was 14 years old and he was 29. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, it's sending me on Instagram. This is the third and last part. And if you want longer story times, go to my YouTube. 2 years pass and they get married. My grandma even told us that the night of their wedding, my great-grandparents gifted them a night at a hotel so that they could have some privacy. You can imagine what happened. My grandmother described it as the most liberating night of her life. 2 months later, she was pregnant. Their first baby was born right before she turned 15, and then she got pregnant again at 15, and then at 17, and then at 18, 19, and finally 20. My grandfather got into oil in his late 20s. He made about $1 million by the time he was 35, so he was able to give them a very comfortable life. He purchased a manor. They had 3 housekeepers, 1 butler, and 4 nannies, and they had a really happy life. My grandma says my grandpa was always affectionate with her, and she said they blessed their bed every single night. After she finishes telling the story, all of my cousins laugh and think it's cute. I was disturbed. I asked her why it was okay to get married at such a young age. And then I said, would you have wanted me to get married when I was 14? That's when she said that times were just different back then. The war was happening, and people didn't know if they would live or die. She also said that when a catch like my grandfather turned up, most parents were looking for a man like my grandfather to marry off their daughters. Grandpa was educated, handsome, driven, had great work ethic, and he took care of her, which is what he promised my great-grandpa. And then when the children came, he more than took care of them. He even took care of my great-grandparents too. He ended up moving them into the manor in their old age, and they were fully taken care of by the staff. Apparently, the manor was big enough to fit in 4 families. Now, I loved my grandfather. He was a great, kind man, and I myself benefited off the generational wealth. He paid for my education, and I'm now a lawyer for it. But still, a huge part of me feels absolutely disgusted with the history of their love. Even though back then that might have been normal, I think it's horrendous. Yes, they had a great love story, but she was a child. Apparently, this was a big family secret. None of the uncles or my parents wanted us to know. I got into a huge argument with my parents for hiding this from me. They think I'm totally overreacting. Am I, though? I guess I'll need more therapy. What do you think? My new boyfriend's daughter kicked me out of their house because she said he'd ruin my life. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sending me on Instagram. God, I wish I had listened to her. Exactly 1 year ago, I met my now boyfriend, soon to be ex. He's a pilot, owns property, he also sells real estate. I was convinced this man was perfect. When we met, he told me that he had a 15-year-old daughter, that their relationship was perfect. The divorce he had with her mom was amicable. They got along, that there was no bad blood between them. I asked him point blank if there was going to be any problems with his daughter and his ex with me. He said no. But when he asked me to be his girlfriend, I said yes. When I tell you everything was good for 6 months, it was more than good. It was perfect. He was the perfect man in every single way possible. He would take me and his daughter out for lunch, and it was all good. We did have a good relationship. And I even met his ex, who was the nicest and best mother I had ever met. And you're probably wondering, when did things go bad? He asked me to move into his beautiful house, which meant that I would spend a lot more time with his daughter, and she would spend a couple of weeks out of every month with him. And that's when I started noticing she was scared of him. She would flinch whenever he would come near her. And then the unthinkable happened. Part 2 is up. That's when I realized my boyfriend's daughter was terrified of him. Now that I was living with them, her and I would have really nice conversations anytime we were together in the kitchen. Anytime he would walk into the room or come home, she would get really quiet. If he would close a door, she would flinch. This kept happening. Remember I said he's a pilot? Sometimes he would go away for 2 to 3 days. The next time we were alone, I asked her what was going on. And that's when she told me that I needed to leave. Now he would ruin my life if I stayed any longer. Then she started to cry. What she said was so unexpected and so scary. I just hugged her, waited for her to calm down, and then I asked her to tell me why she said that. She told me that he controlled her entire life. That he wouldn't let her do anything. That she couldn't have friends, couldn't go out anywhere by herself. That he would eventually start to do the same thing to me because he did the same thing to her mom. I asked my boyfriend why he broke up with his ex. He told me that they just grew apart. This is when she told me that he would keep tabs on her, follow her, made her quit her job, which by the way, she was a doctor. Also that he could make sure that she was always home with their daughter. And that the only reason the divorce was amicable was because she didn't want to have to fight him in court. Part 3 is up. My boyfriend's daughter kicked me out of their house because she said that he would ruin my life. Claim this is not my story time. Send me an Instagram. After telling me how controlling and abusive he had been to her and her mom, he told me that I needed to leave right now because he was waiting to ask me to marry him, that once we were married, he would start to control my life like he did theirs. She then said that she could see that I wasn't believing her, so she pulls out her phone and calls her mom. She starts saying the same things, that at one point she even had to get a restraining order against him, that the only reason she lets her daughter spend so much time with him is because she's afraid that he might want custody. But my relationship with him was so perfect. Just couldn't believe them. And guess what? I'm glad I didn't. I did end up leaving the house. When my boyfriend came back from his work trip, he told me that they had done this to every other girlfriend he tried to have. That it was all a lie. Girl, I almost believed them. This drama made me feel so bad. I actually broke up with him. He gave me space for a month, but now he wants me to get back with him. I don't want to deal with his daughter and his ex. What should I ended up getting plastic surgery because my boyfriend is prettier and hotter than me. Can totally roast me in the comments, but hear me out. When he and I matched on Bumble, I was shocked that he would even want to talk to me. I knew right away that he was way out of my league and he was way prettier than me. Preparation to go on this date, I dieted for 3 weeks and I lost 7 pounds. I put 3 layers on of Skims compression Spanx. That's how desperate I was to look skinny. Colored my hair chocolate brown, got the butterfly haircut, got 1 ml of lip filler. And the day of the date, I actually got my makeup done, but it was such minimal makeup that he thought I wasn't wearing anything. By the end of those 3 weeks, I had completely transformed. And the first time he met me, he kept commenting how beautiful my skin was, how rosy my cheeks were, pretty and plump my lips were. I actually believed I had no makeup on. I realized everything I did worked. I knew from this moment on I had to keep up the act. Now, no way in hell was I ever gonna have a small waist. So I went to a plastic surgeon and I ended up getting 360 lipo. And I also got new boobulas, but they weren't huge, they were just a little bit bigger. How did I explain this? I told him I had appendicitis and that I had to get surgery. Have to go to part 2, it's up. I got liposuction because of my hot boyfriend. I knew I needed to keep up appearances, so I decided to just go ahead and get the plastic surgery. At this point, him and I had only gone on 3 dates. He kept telling me how much he liked me. So I got the 360 lipo, I got a boobie aug, only one size up. Got cheek and under eye filler, I got a little bit more in my lips. Told him I had appendicitis and this is why I was getting surgery. He came to my apartment twice while I was recovering. 3 weeks later, I looked so much better. And around that time is when he asked me to be his girlfriend. I kept eating healthy and working out and I kept losing weight, but I knew that I needed to keep up the makeup look. He thought I wasn't wearing any makeup when we met. Whenever I stayed over at his place, I would wake up earlier and put a little bit of makeup on. It's been a year and he still doesn't know about any of it. I don't care. I'll continue to put makeup on and style my hair in the mornings before he wakes up. My body looks a million times better now that I actually have a waist. And I've been putting in the work and gained lots of muscle. All of my friends have congratulated me for my glow up. My life has gotten so much better. People treat me better. I even got the position I wanted at work. Now I have the hottest, most amazing boyfriend. This wouldn't have happened had I not put the work into myself. Would you have done the same, or is this totally cringe? My husband signed up for my sister's OnlyFriends. Should I divorce him? Disclaimer, not my story time. Send me an Instagram. My husband and I have a really toxic relationship. When he and I first started dating, I was extremely jealous. I would instigate fights almost every single day. Now that we're married, I'm definitely less jealous. But he's always been jealous throughout our relationship. He tries to control everything I do, down to the way I dress and even the people I can or cannot hang out with. He even insisted that I quit my job, which I did. He's invested a lot in Tesla and crypto, so he makes a lot of money without having to leave the house. Which, yes, is totally amazing. amazing, but that means he and I are together all the time. And with his jealousy, sometimes I just can't stand him. I've tried to help him with his jealousy because I used to be in that place. And when I try to talk to him about it, he just gets mad at me. Whenever he sees that I post something on Instagram, he gets angry. He says that I'm looking for attention, which of course I am, but not from guys. Everyone posts on social media because they want to show off their life. A little on my sister. We're identical twins, and we're really, really close. Unfortunately, my sister got laid off from her job last year. That's when she decided to start her OnlyFriends. I support her in everything she wants to do. She's actually making really good money from it, so she's really happy about it. A few days ago, I got on my husband's phone to look for something. When I see my sister's pictures, part 2 is up. My husband signed up for my sister's OnlyFriends. Should I divorce him? Disclaimers are not my story time. It's gonna be on Instagram. A few days ago, I got on my husband's phone to transfer some money from his account to mine. When I started looking for his banking app, I noticed something else on his screen. I had never seen this before, so I clicked on it. And as soon as I opened it, I see my sister's pictures. And I knew it was her OnlyFriends right away. By the way, I had never told my husband that my sister had an OnlyFriends. She wouldn't even post about it on her social media. So the fact that he found it makes me believe that he had my phone bugged or something. But here's the thing. He was using a different name for his account. So it was likely that my sister did not know it was him. From there, I could see that he was following a bunch of other girls. And when I went to their messages, he had paid over hundreds of dollars every single day to all of these girls. Can you imagine how much money that is? My husband came into the room and saw me on his phone. Of course, he didn't freak out because he never thought that I would find it. But I confronted him right away. But he didn't even flinch. He said he had every right to go on OnlyFans because it was the same thing as going to any website. I told him to at least unfollow my sister, and he said that he wouldn't. He said he loved it because it was like watching me do naughty things. Then he said, "Isn't this better than cheating on you?" I was flabbergasted. Part 3 is up. My husband signed up for my sister's OnlyFriends. Should I divorce him? Disclaimers are not my story time. It's gonna be on Instagram. That's when he told me that it was better than him cheating on me. And I was shocked. I couldn't think of anything else to say, so I threatened him. I told him that if he didn't stop following my sister, that I would start my own OnlyFriends account. Like I said, he's really jealous. So he went berserk. He ripped my phone out of my hand and threw it against the wall. Then he told me that the only reason he asked me to quit my job was so that I wouldn't be around other men. By the way, I used to be a personal trainer, and most of the time I would only train women. I told him that my sister and I wouldn't be comfortable with him looking at our OnlyFriends. It was so disturbing. Oh, and I also told him that he needed to stop controlling me, and that I could buy my own phone with my own money and start my own account. Then he came to his senses and started to apologize. And I also told him that I was suspecting that he bugged my phone, and that he was receiving my messages, because there was no other way he could have found out about my sister's account. Then he calmed down and explained things to me. He said that he had bugged my phone a few months ago because I was posting too much on Instagram and it was bothering him. So basically, he has access to my DMs and all my text messages. Promised to stop doing that and that he would buy me a new phone. And that's how he found out about my sister's OnlyFriends. He said he only signed up out of curiosity, and that he only wanted to see a few pictures and then delete it. But the more he kept looking at her pictures, the more he would think of me, and that it turned him on. And in front of me, he deactivated his account and deleted everything. He promised me that he would never do that again. Of course, I haven't forgiven him though. Haven't even spoken to him in days. But every time he sees me, he tries to kiss me and hug me. And when I push him away, he tries even harder. Honestly, I think he likes it. I do believe that he's secretly addicted to drama and that he thrives on it. I'm planning on never telling my sister about it. I don't think she'd feel comfortable around him ever again. I mean, I don't feel comfortable around him right now. I'm so confused and I don't know if I should leave him or not. He's so confused.
I hate my best friend because she's better than me at everything, and I just want her to fail. Am I crazy? Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I met my best friend over 3 years ago. We both worked at the same corporate job, but I was way ahead of her. I was already making 6 figures. I lived on my own, and I had a really great relationship. She, on the other hand, was broke. She was just getting out of an abusive relationship. She was basically starting from the bottom up. I decided to take her under my wing and help her out, and now I totally regret it. I would take her out to lunch once a week so that I could help her out with the job, because I started in the same position, and I knew exactly what she needed to do to rise in the ranks. I gave her my best advice, and not only did she implement it, she did better than me. My bosses loved her. Everyone in the office loved her. She was charismatic and funny, and she was the girl everybody wanted to sit with at lunch. At first, I supported it. I mean, she needed the help, and if I was in her position, I wish somebody like me would have helped me. But my hate began to grow. Part 2 is up. I hate my best friend because she's better than me at everything, and I just want her to fail. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. After I gave her all my best advice to grow at our company, she started doing really well. And after a while, it started bothering me that everybody loved her. She got a huge promotion. Now she was basically on my level. And what I'm about to say sounds so shallow, but she was very overweight when she started working with us. I'm a Pilates princess, and I lift weights. I'm in excellent shape. When she started earning more money at our job, she signed up for my Pilates classes, and we would go together. Instead of me paying for our lunch lunches, she started offering to pay. And it took her a whole year, but she lost all of the weight. She was looking just as good as I did. This is when it really got to me. But I realized something about myself. I was only okay with being her friend if she wasn't doing as good as I was. Why did I care if she was doing so well? Why did it bother me? One night she came over for dinner at our place, and my boyfriend gave her an innocent compliment, and it made me feel so angry, envious, and jealous. Then I started hating her even more, and I started having dreams that my boyfriend was gonna leave me for her. Part 3 is up.
My husband threatened to leave me if I didn't start paying for the bills. My husband is American and I'm Middle Eastern. And in my Middle Eastern culture, men pay for everything. If you marry a man, he will take care of you. He will pay for the bills so that you can focus on having children and taking care of the family. Those are values that I wanted in my relationship. A couple of years ago, my family and I moved to the US. Of course, my parents wanted me to date only Middle Eastern men because they knew that they were like this. But I ended up falling for an American guy. When he and I started dating, my parents spoke to him. They explained to him that in our culture, men are providers. They take care of the women, that women could be better mothers. He agreed to all of that. Now, I would say that he is very possessive and very jealous. When I decided that I was going to move to another state to study, he said not to because he was going to be a provider for me. Therefore, I didn't have to graduate from college. Biggest mistake of my life. Fast forward 2 years, he asks me to marry him and I say yes. My parents reminded him that once we got married, moved in together, he would be financially responsible for me. And he kept agreeing to everything. You're never gonna guess what happened next. Hey, part 2 is up. You can go watch it now. My husband threatened to leave me if I didn't start paying for the bills. But when we got married, we asked our guests to give us money instead of gifts. My parents gifted us $50,000 for our wedding gift. Our idea was to use all of this wedding money as a down payment for a house. After the wedding, we opened up a joint account and put all the money in there. And we both had access to this money. Okay, so you're probably wondering what he does for a job. He works in construction part-time. He could never land a full-time job. So altogether, he was making about $2,000 a month. The problem is, I didn't know this until we got married. Because before that, he was using his credit cards to pay for everything, making me and my parents think that he was earning a lot more. Part of me has to take some responsibility because I could have asked him directly how much money you earn. I just assumed it was a lot of money. As soon as we got married, we were trying to get pregnant. And he was paying for everything. At least that's what it looked like. A few months later, he confesses that he had been using all of our wedding money to pay for bills. Not just bills, mortgage, his new car, and a whole new setup because he wanted to become a gamer. We only had $5,000 left in that account. That's when he asked me if I was willing to get a job. Babe, you gotta go to part 2. It's